Good afternoon, my villagers. Good afternoon. It's a new year, 2025.
Yes.
Not just another new year, one we haven't seen or seen all since slavery. And that's not hyperbole. That's real, but we're going to talk about that further. But right now, I just want to thank my team, We're back trying to do what we do. Thank Sheila. I want to thank Lula. And I want to thank my promo crew. I want to thank Juanita, my promo crew, Salim and Alwa, Chastity, yes. Elijah, and, of course, my co-host, King Professor Terry Benjamin.
In the house.
Yes. And, of course, my Norm. Our engineer who tried to keep us
Mr.
real
Magic.
here. Yeah, Magic here. I tell you, I want to thank him so much. We are just pleased and thrilled to be back. My co-host here, King Terry, has branched out and produced and co-hosts his own show. What is it called? Poetically Speaking.
Yes.
Along with his partner Ron McCray.
Yes.
To keep the tradition of the griot, African griot, alive.
Know it.
Spoken word. It comes on Sundays and Thursdays.
Yes.
You know me. I'm Ruby Williams Shivers. I've been away for a month, but back now and continuing the effort of restoring ourselves.
That's right.
That we lost through stripping. The one thing that made us uniquely different from any other enslaved people, we were stripped of everything. That's why many of us can't see beyond our circumstances. When we see that we are behind disproportionate on health, wealth, and education, many of us begin to blame ourselves, not knowing that there were consequences to the stripping. Right. See, we came through it with some very bad scars, but if we don't know that, we'll forget. And, we'll forget our initial greatness and fall for the okie-doke that we are nothing and never have been. So I've been thinking, since the narrative around our worth is always compared to someone else's, I have decided to examine that, through another lens. How I have always defended and defined our black men when the narratives were black men are absentee fathers, black men are lazy, black men are criminals, black men are dumb. Well, black men became absentee fathers when they were forced out of the home on the pretense of welfare, which was termed subsidy for other families.
That's right.
Black men considered lazy when you tried to force them to work for nothing while paying yours fair wages. It couldn't be really lazy when they built the country for
right.
you. That
something?
And ironic. Black men became criminals when you charged them for crimes that were considered minor offenses by you.
Wow.
Like with Mr. Donald Trump.
being the
president of the United States, black men said black men with a PhD degree would not be able to get a job working the streets with his record.
That's right, with a felony.
Now another one, black men are dumb. Well, when the black man came from a tribe of people who excelled in science, literature, mathematics, the builders of the pyramid, so now I have accounted for them
Yes.
so-called deficiencies of my black man, I'm not going to put the question to my white sisters, woman to woman. What's wrong with your men?
Woman to
You
woman.
birthed them. You reared them. You support them. What's wrong with them? And it's not just coming from me, you know. The aggrieved black woman, even some of your own are asking the question. Tim Wise, a white author from Texas, wrote the book White Like Me. Joan Walsh, a white MSNBC political analyst, wrote the book, quote, What's the Matter with White People? And recently, someone sent me this piece. Norm, can we run that?
Yes.
White people, do you know what yesterday, November 18th, marked the anniversary of back in 1983? Hi, my name is Chris Ben. I'm your Caucasity coach. Let's discuss. On this day, James Cody, a black man, was held and tortured by the Chicago Police Department under the supervision of John Burge. Burge led a 30-year campaign of violence and torture towards the black community. It was found that he tortured over 100 black men into false confessions. Techniques included severe beatings, electrocution, and suffocation. Despite overwhelming evidence, qualified immunity protected Burge and other officers from being held accountable for their behavior. As we enter a new political era and we see people trying to strengthen qualified immunity, let us remember its history. White people, if you feel that black people in the police custody should be as safe as we are, you need to speak up and speak out. Hope this helps. Stay compassionate. Stay curious. White people, do you know what yesterday, November 18th, marked the anniversary of back in 1983? Hi, my name is Chris Ben.
What's wrong with your men? Why do your men have so much unmitigated hatred in their hearts? Why do they want to dominate? Why do they organize into beastly characters like the KKK and Magna, the Donald Trumps of the world? Why are they so insecure? Why do they envy black people so much? You know, I'm going to put the onus on you, my white sisters. I'll be waiting for your answer. Now, we got a great guest on here today, Dr. James McIntosh.
Yes.
Yeah, Simotep, the Committee to Eliminate Media Offensives Against African People. He's been here before, and everybody wanted him back.
That's right.
To Terry, we'll read his bio and we'll ask him some questions. But before that, you know, I just want to ask my villagers, all my people, for prayers for my sister and co-host, Lula. She's going through some health issues right now, and please keep her in your prayers. Well, when she returns, she will bring a new segment to the show. A home school she teaches called Williams Cubalon Cultural Academy of Plainfield. We developed that so we could teach our youngsters before they left the nest who they are and whose they are. So the segment to my podcast, and where youngsters will bring you their history, African history. That's what I suggest to all of us. We need to start teaching our children before they leave the nest. At least they get this craziness that Governor DeSantis from Florida, is it from? Came up with that, we came over here and learned something. learned how wicked they were. But right now we're going to bring our brother on. I'm so excited because he's going to tell us how we're going to get through 2025 and beyond. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, he's going to read the bio right now.
Okay, this brother was with us before, but this is Dr. James C. McIntosh. He's a retired psychiatrist who, over a 40-year career, practiced in all 5 boroughs of New York. He's a graduate of Brooklyn Technical High School, Hunter College, of the City of University of New York and New Jersey's Medical School of the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. And this is records. Dr. McIntosh was awarded the Malcolm X Award from the New York chapter of NAKO, National Association of Qaeda Organizations, and was chosen as Health Activist of the Year by the family and friends of Dr. Mutala Shakur. Dr. McIntosh also received awards from numerous community and civic organizations, including the UNIA, ACL, the Bedside School of Martial Arts, the NAACP, Cooper City African American Association, the Science Skills Center, Mosque Number 7 of the Nation of Islam, Women in Support of the Million Man March, the Christian Times newspaper, the Coalition to Elect a Black Mayor, Simultep, and 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. Dr. McIntosh is a proud husband, father, and grandfather. He is past winner of Father of the Year from a coalition of organizations, including the Southern Queens Park Association and the Queens Million Man March Coordinating Committee. Currently, Dr. McIntosh has a weekly program on WBAI entitled Mindfield. Welcome, my brother. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good to have you on again, Dr. McIntosh. And I'm going to ask you the very first question. Well, you know, I've known you for years. I've been with you and Sister Betty Dobson through your program, Simultap. It's been the source of my development, really, you know. Simultap has provided the kind of information necessary for us, the Africans, to look through the lens of history to appreciate who we are. Now, what motivated you for such an endeavor, Doctor?
That's a good question.
Well, if you're speaking about the endeavor of producing media or producing or distributing information, that sprung mainly out of our mission. Our mission is to eliminate media offensive to African people. And very often that requires you countering the misinformation. Okay. So initially, we had to produce media to show our people what was offensive about the media that we were ingesting. And I mean, they knew, but we had to bring it all and put it all together. So some of the things that we would do is Sister Betty Dobson, who was a co-founder of the organization, she created a collage, which was a bunch of pictures of the headlines or the front pages of a newspaper called Newsday newspaper. And she showed how they only showed our people in the areas of sports, crime, and entertainment. And then we, of course, we would have to write documents. We'd have to write letters. We'd have to write. And we ended up writing newspaper articles and doing cable TV shows and radio programs, all to further and advance our mission. Now, Sister Betty, both of us had a little experience in these things before. You know, I had written for a paper called The Devil Jammer when I was in undergraduate school. And I used to put on programs, you know, around different Black issues while in school. But Betty had been actually awarded for her work in that regard. She was the Director of Public Relations of Harlem Hospital. And she won something called the D. Park Gibson Award, which is like really the highest award for a Black person, you know, Black public relations. And so she had lots of experience in that. And, you know, she was the guiding force really in the programs and stuff that we put together. So that's how I came to do that. And actually, eventually that would lead to, you know, some of the struggles that we were involved in. Like, for instance, the first time I actually wanted to be a writer. Started out when I first graduated from college, and my wife would work and I would go and I'd be writing stories and stuff all day and be getting rejected from different people. And I still didn't give up. But then one day I saw a lady on TV and she read a passage. It was Toni Morrison. Now at that time, Toni Morrison wasn't that well known. I didn't know that one day she was going to be the Nobel Prize winner. But I thought that, you know, she was representative of a writer. And I was like the kid in Roots when he said to the guy who was the wrestler, he said, this morning when we were wrestling and the guy said, you know, the person that was guiding them through their rites of passage, he said, we weren't wrestling. I was wrestling. You know, when I saw her, I said, I'm not writing, she's writing. I got a job after that. And so, and this was way before medical school. And so I worked ever since then. Because of CEMOTAP, we were involved in a situation where Betty Dobson changed the whole way trial was going. It was the trial of the, they were the St. John's rapists. These were some boys, young men who had, listen, stop. You have to stop me because these stories are, they'll just go on and on.
We're going to let you go for a few more minutes. Continue, brother. Yeah.
What happened is these boys, they were going back and forth to court. They had lured a young black woman to their frat house and, sodomized her and did all kinds of crazy things. And then they took her to another frat house, and eventually somebody had driven her home. And so stories the newspapers were running were like that this guy named Todd had saved her from all of this sort of stuff. But in the court, we got to hear the real deal that when she went over, they took her to the second frat house, this guy Todd, and in a way it saved her, but it was a little less heroic than the newspapers.
I hear you. Yeah.
He said, who brought her here?
Oh,
okay. And then he didn't free her. He took her back to the frat house that she had originally been. All of these things had been done. And then they drove her home. While they were driving her home, one of them said, they discussed killing her because, they didn't want, she was at Fordham University. They didn't want her to tell.
Yeah, she's a witness. Yeah.
So none of this was in the papers. This is the girl telling the story on the stand.
Yes.
So they said to her, look, even if she does tell, we don't have to kill her because look at Tawana Brawley. Nobody's going to believe her. When they said that, I looked around and none of the writers that were in there, Vanette Price and a bunch of people, they were in there, so a bunch of writers, none of them. Now, I understand this is after I had aborted my writing career. Right. But I looked, none of them were writing. I said, did they hear what this girl said? Yeah. So I wrote a story called St. John's Rapist Taunt Victim with Tawana Brawley, about Tawana Brawley. And I'd handwritten it. I went home, I typed it up, and I called the Daily Challenge and the editor, DeWard Phillips. I told him what had happened. He said, I wrote a story. He said, send it.
Oh, okay.
So next day when we were in court, or the next time we were in court, I looked to see, did they publish it? He had blacked out the front page and had a headline on there. And then I was hooked, boy.
Well, that's all it takes, because that was the validation that you needed, and the thing that I really want to continue our conversation. Now, I said that you are the host of the show Mindfield, but what I left out was going into the new year. Your show's a little different because now you have a co-host. Is that true? And who is your co-host?
The co-host is Richardina McIntosh, my wife, and she's Dr. Richardina McIntosh now. When we started out, she wasn't, but now she's got a PhD, and she's in the field of nursing. Very big person in the field of nursing.
Now, in terms of your program, what will be the theme going into this new year? Because I'm sure, as a psychiatrist, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about going into the new year. In programs like your program, our program, we try to give people another way to look at life. But my question to you is, where do we go from here? We're facing some serious times. How can we deal with our anxiety?
Well, anxiety is just another word for fear.
Okay, all right.
And there's several words for fear. One of them is fear.
Okay.
Another word is worry.
Okay.
Another word is anxious. So now, if I'm holding an axe over your head, you'll be fearful. You'll be afraid.
Of course.
If I tell you I'm coming back tomorrow with my axe, and then that period, you'll be worried during that period before the date that
No doubt about it.
But if you feel like I'm coming back with an axe, so you feel like I have an axe over your head, and there's nothing right, you can't figure out what it is.
No, of course.
That's anxiety is when it's fear, when you don't know the object of your fear. You know, you don't know where it's coming from.
So looking at the incoming administration, should we be,
People are fearful
should we be fearful?
because, you know, when a person tells you they're going to suspend the rights of the, you know, the Constitution, or suspend the protections of the Constitution,
Yes, yeah.
something that hasn't even been successful with protecting us all along,
Yes.
of course, the person's going to be fearful if that little thin thread that was holding, you know, that was giving you some protection is removed.
Yeah.
Certainly, you have to be fearful if you've received signs that nothing is sacred.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing that you will have no rights which they're bound to respect. The same thing that Judge Taney said in the Dred Scott case.
Yes, yes.
A man that has been convicted, he says not rape. Certainly, the woman was accusing him of rape.
Yeah, yeah.
They ended up saying that it was sexual abuse or something like that in a department store.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Man, 24 people, at least 24 women that have accused him of saying and doing
my
and
goodness.
things of that same nature.
Yes,
And
yeah.
got him flaunting it in your face by putting in the cabinet multiple people who are in the same situation.
Yeah.
You've got a guy that is talk, you know, has, I mean, this is even reckless talk,
Yeah.
even if you don't mean it. When
Yeah,
he
yeah,
starts
yeah.
using military force to take Greenland,
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
starts talking about annexing Canada to the United States,
Yes.
renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and these type of foolish things.
Yeah, yeah.
If he knows better,
Yeah, yeah.
you can say he's reckless.
Yeah.
And you can't have a reckless person who has the power to push a button and destroy life as we know it.
Yeah.
You know, Einstein was asked about the weapons of the future or something.
Yeah.
He said, oh, well, I don't know what kind of weapons they're going to use in World War III. Was going to be fought with sticks and rocks, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have a person, a reckless person who's got that power to push that button. You've got a person whose loyalty,
Yeah, yeah.
his biographer said, this guy is loyal to nothing. You know, he's more or less just loyal to himself.
Yeah, they said that he's more or less transactional. I mean, he's looking for somebody to give him something, and he's not thinking about giving it back. But it's a thing where, you know, it's almost like you pay to play. That's what we have so many billionaires and millionaires and trillionaires sort of sticking their nose in our business. But again, I think it's good to have someone like you, because you know what's going on in the mind. And I'm sure at this time, the minefield is very treacherous, right?
It absolutely is, and always has been. Sister Ruby, is Sister Lula okay?
She's yes, she's doing okay. I had to get up just to see what was happening.
Yes, yes.
But keep her in your prayers, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
I
saved the
missed
portion for you.
I know I missed the
No, we're
important
just looking
thing.
at the current landscape. You know, I was
Okay.
telling my
Yeah.
brother, you know, we're definitely in a state of anxiety because of what's going on, and he sort of broke that down.
Yeah.
Anxiety is fear,
Right.
and we were just opening up the conversation for your return.
Yeah, okay. Well, tell me what is, I want you to share with us. I know you always have some information that you need our people to know about, like when you was here before.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes.
So we just want to know what is Semitotep doing moving forward.
Okay, well, we're doing the same things we've always done. I didn't want to quite leave that question yet because although I started defining fear and stuff, you know, I was just defining it.
Yes. Yes.
Our people have lived through Andrew Jackson. You
Ooh,
know,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so wicked that he would give one reward if you brought an enslaved African and escaped African back, and another reward based on how many lashes you had given
Right.
the
Oh
person.
my goodness.
He promised the Africans during the War of 1812 that he would give them their freedom if they fought in the war, and when they finished, he put them right back on the plantation. He marched thousands and thousands of the indigenous people from the east coast of the United States to west of the Rockies, the elderly, the infirm, the the children, killing thousands of people. Very, very wicked person. You know, I call him the wickedest white man that ever lived. Some people said, well, Hitler killed more people. And I told them, I said, well, Hitler may have killed more because he had more. But Jackson killed as many as he could. And so we've lived through that. We lived through the first Trump administration. We have lived through chattel slavery.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You know, we lived through a slave ship. So the thing is don't get scared, get mad. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Dr. Leonard Jeffries, be angry. Stay angry, you won't be scared.
And the difference with the our Jewish friends, they were went through their Holocaust, but without the stripping that I talk about all the time. That's the difference. That's uniquely different with us. They need to always. We used to always think when we talk about other folks' atrocities. I was so different in that we were stripped, unlike any other folk that I read about, biblical or otherwise. We're not stripped. And that made the difference. That made us uniquely different because at least when the Jews were released, they were prepared, both mentally, physically, and otherwise, to go and gain whatever it is that they had. So with us, we are still suffering from that stripping. One of the reasons that many of us, in my book that I wrote, Verbal Healing, I talk about how we are so geared to talking about who we are not and what we have done and how bad we are. And we'll do that amongst ourselves, and we mean no harm. Obviously, I don't like to put blame on us for anything because we have, unless we studied us sincerely from people like yourself. I contend that it's going to take three different type of people. I've said that.
Please say it again. Say it again.
Different type of people. It's going to take our faith-based people, not just anybody, but I mean those who know the inside and out of who we are. It's going to take our historians, one who knows, those who know about us, and it's going to take the psychologists and the psychiatrists, those who can study. Because you just to know about us. Not doing a lot. I know about it. I know about the virus, but I don't know about the intricacies of what made the virus do what it did, killed over 2 million people, and the other things. But we needed someone who was expert in that area to dig through and find out solutions. And until you find solutions, then those are the three people that we'd have to depend on, not just singularly. It has nothing to do with one individual, but together to study us from that perspective, and that way we will know. Because we don't think beyond our circumstances, I always say. We know what we are not. We know we are behind in education, health, and wealth. Why? Something must tell us to prove to other folk. Then there's got to be a reason that we have come along on this day and this time. Worst off. Given our history, that is, if we're going to believe our history, that we're the best, we were the greatest, we were this, that, and the other, then something got to stop us in our track to say, if that were the case, then when we were snatched from our homeland, brought over here, and gone through all those atrocities, then we got to go from that point. And I do believe, and I make analogies all the time. I made an analogy about the virus. When that virus came over here, Dr. McIntosh, ain't nobody tried to go around looking for, a matter of fact, the president of the United States, the greatest and more important man in the whole wide world, talking about injecting bleach. Now, that is the kind of information we'll get from people who don't know how to get to the root of what caused us. So the same is with our people. A lot of folks, I'll say this again, was a little bit annoyed with Obama when he made the reference that black men was responsible or shouldn't blame other folks for their mishap. There was a little offense, and I can understand why they were, but then they have to realize Obama was a Harvard graduate. That doesn't mean he knows the history and the depth of us as African people. We got to get that straight. It's just because you might be in certain position and know certain things, that does not mean you have come to any kind of conclusions of the why we were converted, not we converted, while we have changed from being the greatest to the least. And once we understand that, then we may be able to move forward without blaming ourselves for conditions that we have nothing to do with. Yeah.
Well, of the three people you mentioned, we have the psychiatrist here with us
Oh,
today.
yeah, that's what we got. People like himself with other folks that can get together, not just singular. He can't do it by himself. The same as nobody could cure that virus by himself. It had to be a conglomerate of people.
Yeah, it's part of the team, right?
Getting together, studying over time what this virus did and how it did and what we can do to bring us together out of it.
That's
and
right.
that's going to be that's so important. Now, Dr. McIntosh, you talking about a writer. You wrote a book, I remember. What's the name of the book, and tell us about it?
Okay, well, actually, I've written 5 books.
All right.
No, maybe a few more. I'm sorry. Yeah, I wrote a few broadsides. Broadsides are a type of book that have real tradition in our culture. It's something anybody can do. You get your 10 pieces of paper and you put things on both sides, and that'll give you 40 pages if you fold it in the middle, and make a booklet. So a few things that came out as booklets were things like David Walker's Appeal. Even it was longer, but even Ida B. Wells' book, The Red Record, was a broadside. So what would happen is I would write articles for CMOTAP on different issues. I call them campaigns that we had. And one of the campaigns we had was around Tawana Brawley. So that was probably one of the first broadsides that I wrote. And it took place not at the time that the offense was taking place, but that St. John's trial, when that was rekindled. And then things happened with the defamation suit, which, I just don't think people really understand what took place in that. That a child who accused adults of raping her
I remember that.
was convicted civilly of defamation as an adult, saying that, she hadn't proven that it had taken place. So there was a whole group of articles about that. Then there was a group of articles that was called State Rape. That was one broadside. State Rape 2 was probably, I think it got involved with Spitzer and things that were happening against Maddox.
Great man.
State Rape 2. And then there was one called The Artist, formerly known as Imhotep, when WLIB was doing various things against Gary Bird. And actually, there's one more that I can't remember. Now, then a couple of full-size books. One was the unauthorized psychoanalysis of Rudolph Giuliani, and the other full-size book was the unauthorized psychoanalysis of Donald J. Trump. And so the last 2 books were serialized in the Amsterdam. In other words, they put a chapter out each week up to a story, and then they were published as books. And then there's a third full-size book I wrote, which has not been published. I have it, it's written, it's completely written. It's called The Water Control the African Mind.
Oh, okay. What's that about? Tell us about it. So we can
that's very intriguing. All the books that you mentioned really definitely food for thought there,
The Water Control the African Mind is, I've heard Dr. Ben kind of allude to this. What is the African mind? The African mind is that one you were talking about before, the one that we know goes back at least 1.8 million years, and people say longer periods. I'm just going to what they call Zinjanthropus boise, which was toolmaker, which they found the skeletons for in East Africa, Olduvai Gorge. They named, the oldest one they found, Lucy, after a Black woman from way back then. And it's the mind that moved as the river flowed, the Nile, which flows north. Civilization flowed the way the river flowed. As people got to different areas where they had different materials and that sort of thing, and different technologies, ultimately it led to the pyramid building. It led to the development of all of the basic things that make up your liberal arts, your sciences, your humanities, your divinities, all of those things. And we could name some specific things, which, the oldest medicine, for instance. We know that the medicine predates our oldest medical textbooks because it takes a while to develop a medical textbook or to develop the techniques of surgery. So in Eber's papyrus, that's 1500 BC. The Edwin Smith papyrus is probably 15 or 1600 BC, and that's a treatise on surgical techniques. Well, you had to have a medicine before that in order to put together a book.
Of course.
On those surgical techniques, some of which are used today. That the early books on, they're called papyri because they were made out of the material that, similar to paper, out of reeds. Yes. And then some of these things were inscribed, I should say, on the walls. And so the early mathematics, and we know we had to have a mathematics. You can't build a pyramid without a mathematics, right? A pyramid in which the height and the circumference have a relationship that has to do with pi, or you can't have a pyramid without geometry, which they say is invented thousands of years later by a guy named Euclid, which is of course ridiculous.
Of course,
you have the Rhine papyrus and the Moscow papyrus. All of these names don't really have anything to do with those papyri. They're usually the names of the people who stole them. Yeah. That's what Dr.
Is that something stealing?
Edwin Smith papyrus is really a book called On the Imposition of Medicine Upon a Man. And so in other words, a civilization, we started things, civilization moved up the Nile, and it spread all across. Even things like the martial arts. We have in the pyramids, we have all of the kinds of maneuvers and stuff that later you call Greco-Roman wrestling. And then that over to India, they had some forms. And then over to China and Japan and Okinawa and those places like that, the martial arts came out. And when you said we were stripped, that's very, very true. But they were never able to strip us totally.
Never will be, but at least to the extent that it did affect. I mean, we're not infallible. We are just great people and strong people.
Strong,
but for them to know that what they did just was damaging to us. And one of the reasons, we'll get to that later, about the compensation for that. Reparations. Should be no question, Other folks didn't have to argue so much. The fact that they stripped us should require some kind of reparation and worked us for free. But you're absolutely right. I'm sorry to interrupt you like that. Go on.
Very often we preserved our culture, and you say hidden in plain sight. Even how people approach Christianity is not the same as the Catholic Church or anything like that. Lots of African dance is preserved in our in all our religions. We know that Boukman in Haiti,
that's right.
done an African religion to inspire and embolden fellow soldiers as they gain their independence. Candomblé and other forms of African religion have been preserved in the music, preserved ritual, all throughout the Americas. Yeah. And so we were able to piece a lot of our culture back together through those things. And at the same time, it allows for an easier transition back when people try to go back. It's not like they go back to something that is totally unfamiliar with them. When Olatunji came and he could hear the drumming over here, he could show you the relationship between patterns that he knew over there, from where he came from, that sort of thing. So they tried their very best to strip us, but even in little ways that you might think are insignificant, some of the things we named ourselves. Stanford always talks about how even people that have been forced to put other people on the slave ship, they would weave some seeds into the girl's hair so that she could grow those plants when she got over here, that sort of thing, and still be connected in some way to Africa.
And it's funny because you mentioned this newspaper, one of my favorite newspapers here, the Amsterdam News, and my question to you is, if people don't know, why should they know this particular publication, and why is this publication even more important at this particular time?
Well, I want to give you an answer different from the answer you would trust me.
Please tell me.
They had a wonderful editor by the name of Nayaba Arende, that was editor for a long time, and she really connected that paper to the activist community. Wilbur Tatum was also a person that, even though he had married a Jewish woman, he still maintained a lot of connection to the Black community. Over time, those things have changed once he died. You remember that Alton Maddox used to write in the paper.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Contradictions with the daughter, who is, torn between two cultures. And I think that came to a head to some extent. And Nayaba was forced out.
Okay.
And our community got together and held a fundraiser for Nayaba, and other people stepped up. State Senator Cordell Clare hired Nayaba, and also Our Times Press hired her. So I don't deal with Amsterdam anymore. So that's why it's significant to me.
Yeah.
But for a long time, it was one of our major leading weeklies. I don't think so. The paper doesn't even look as robust as it used to as you held it up.
Right.
So do we need a publication similar to this, or the way it should be?
We absolutely do. We need so many.
Yeah.
We need.
That's
We've
what I want
always
you to address. Yeah.
paper. We had the Daily Challenge, but it was only on selected newsstands and, only a few. And so we, CMOTAP, we held subscription contests, all of the Black weeklies and the daily that we had in the city. And we tried to bring all of those newspapers together. But when they came to a forum at our place, they actually acknowledged that they couldn't get together because they saw each other as opponents. And it was dumb because if separate got together, you could actually replace those white dailies.
Of course.
And certainly it would just change everything for you to be getting the news from an African perspective. Because if you're a fish and the person that's writing your news is the fisherman,
Now you mentioned the word African perspective. Let me ask you a question about this word that I hear a lot. It's a sort of a kind of pretty sounding word, a little big and everything, but I have a problem with it. We're not monolithic. I'm saying we never got together too much since they again stripped us to get together on anything concrete or that come from us. So I have a problem with that word in a little bit, because to say we're not monolithic, like a brother who wrote the book Journey of the Songhai People, my good friend and brother Calvin, he said we're scattered in so many different directions. We need to be a little bit more monolithic, because they are monolithic. They're monolithic, and while they're focused, they're prepared, because they go away on the birch societies and etc. We don't have that. We have the NAACP people. What they control that. I guess the only people that you can say in today's society is a little bit got a concentrated mind is the Nation of Islam. They're the one that get together. But we have nothing that we get together on a yearly basis, try to figure out something, come back in one accord. So to use the word monolithic, I think that taking it, when it bothers me when I hear it. We're not monolithic. Because we're thinking a million different directions.
We're all over the place.
I hope I didn't use that.
No, you never did. No, that's you, brother.
That's something we strive for. Because Brother Mtume used to say, he said, 100 of them can get together, disagree on 99 things, and come together on one thing, which would be kicking our butts. And 100 of us can come together, agree on 99 things, and let one thing split us all up. It's something
what do we accredit to that to it? That's why I keep using the thing stripping.
Why?
I say,
Why?
Gotta be something that I say, since we're the only one that were stripped. And like you say, they couldn't just totally destroy. They could never do that. Yeah. But had left such a damaging effect on how we think, because one of the things that I don't know of the book Dr. I wrote way back when, verbal healing, and it applies to us today. So we use words like verbal healing. We are our worst enemy. We are not black people don't stick together. Black folks are like crabs in a barrel. All those expressions, all those sayings come from somewhere.
I heard all that before.
For us to think that about ourselves, and that's not all of us but the few who do make a big difference in how we can move forward with trying to cure ourselves from the ills that been upon us, Go on.
We need that unity, like the brother said. We got to have it.
But I'm asking, how do we get it if we don't know the cause and the reasoning behind we don't have it?
That's right. Yeah,
You're
right.
it's not normal. It's not naturally so. Is it, Dr. McIntyre?
Well, it's not a single thing that causes it to come into being. Like you have to take a look at how it was brought about. It wasn't just that they took things from us. They also did a conditioning process in which they would reward you for bad behavior. They would reward you for disloyalty. They would reward you for snitching.
Right.
They would reward you for assimilating and taking on their values. They would reward you for not resisting, those sorts of things. Never worked 100%. Even with the worst types of tortures being advertised for her, Harriet Tubman would not stop going back down south.
Right, exactly.
People, even with the odds totally against him, Nat Turner was able to turn that into a victory because there were a couple of things going on. Brother just called me while we were talking. He explained it to me that in the Dismal Swamps, that's where Nat was hiding out, and then he went back, and his family was escaping. So he would do his stuff in the opposite direction so that his family could. So in that respect, he was successful. His family did escape. His family was able to escape to freedom as a result of the military maneuvers that he was doing. So we've always had, it's been a process, and we study, we learn, we try to come together. They put some other stuff out there for us. But what Marcus Garvey said, that is when all else fails to organize the people, the conditions will. And that was repeated, of course, by Carlos Crooks. When all else fails, the conditions will. And so the worse they try to make it for us, the more we're going to be forced to come together. So we've had lots of conferences. We've had lots of, we had a Black Solidarity Day. Black Solidarity Day was something that Carlos Crooks came up with to try to bring us together. People keep continuing to make the efforts. We have a Black Unity rally coming on the 22nd of February. My brother from a thing called Food Therapy. That might be somebody you'd want to have on your show.
Okay,
brother.
I'm dependent on you to, introduce me to whomever you think I need to have on this show. That's what it's all about.
Go to your person who contacted. They'll have he can Food Therapy, something he developed. He's 26 plus years free of substances that had. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he had one. When he said he had sold everything, but he had one radio or cassette player that had a speech by Minister Farrakhan.
Oh, wow.
Instinctively, if you ever sold that,
he held on to that, right?
Yeah.
His brain would never be able to come back.
Yeah. There's so many things that we have to know about ourselves, our history, that would at least give us some clarification as to what we are about now. That's and right. Why we are about what we're about now. I just heard the term the other day, and it kind of blew me away, degendering. They've applied all kinds of methods to dehumanize us. And this is not to show shade on nobody. I'm not one way or the other, but you got to know who you are. But they did that, just another method of trying to dehumanize us. You either this, that, or the other. I have no problem with that. But don't have someone outside of the situation declaring what you are.
Right,
so they said the degenerate is another means of trying to dehumanize us, to make us not know exactly who we are or what we choose to be.
Yes, yeah.
So they put
That's
all
right.
of us in dresses or pants or something just to,
Oh, my
not
goodness.
to recognize our humanity.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they did that same thing in slavery with us and horses and cows and whatever. They would take the horse and treat them the same as they would treat us or whatever the case. So that's nothing new. It's just that when we understand this stuff, some of it anyway, we may move forward
Hopefully,
with
yeah.
not totally blaming ourselves for all the what so-called negatives.
Yeah.
Again, I mean,
But
to
we
be very
will-
clear, I'm not suggesting that any type of the identification you may go on is negative.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying they have no right.
Yeah, well,
To-
we got to come together, you know. We
That
have
word
to.
you used, okay, it's part of the war. Wade Noble said power is the ability to define reality and have
Wow.
others respond to it as if it were their own.
Right.
So they use these words to do the same things they've always done. So like, in other words, now, and I mean, people get angry about this, just saying this sort of thing, but if you just look at it, you'll see that it's true.
That is true.
They always would castrate us when they was a part of the lynching. Okay. But now they don't call that castration. They call that gender affirming surgery. And if you go for that, well, then you see what I'm saying? The battle is lost. There's a brother by the name of Baruti. He writes some stuff. And the word I use now when he's on one of the things he's going is a lot of gender confusion.
Yeah.
But the ones that they create the conditions. See, on the one hand, they portray it as black. If you look at all the TV, every time they come up with that stuff, it'll be a black person involved. Even if they have a white one, there'll be a black one involved in it also.
Oh, my goodness.
So the thing is that if this is something that a person is just natural, if that's the only reason,
Right.
then why would you have more black? Well, you put all their fathers in prisons and you make it where the fathers can't earn a living, where various sorts of situations develop, domestic violence and all kinds of trauma and all these sorts of things.
Yes.
Then you really have created the social conditions because it's most things that occur in nature. I mean, if you talk about even something like schizophrenia or whatever it is like that, they have two causes, not just one. They usually don't just have a biological cause. They have a biological cause and they'll have an environmental cause. They say nature and nurture. So one of the things that was used is like if you look at twins that were raised apart, that's the way you can see what is the nature of it. Because twins raised apart, if one develops schizophrenia, there's a 75% concordance. Does that prove genetic and biological, or does that prove environmental? It proves both.
Okay.
Because since they're genetic replicas, if they were even if they were raised apart, they would both have it.
Right,
If it was purely genetics. But on the other hand, if it was purely environmental, you wouldn't get 75% concordance with people raised apart.
right,
So most things in nature are both environmental and biological. And what they're doing now is they've created the social conditions, and they want to simply define certain things as being purely biological. And then they're reinforcing it with surgeries and this sorts of stuff. And then they enforce it with their vocabulary. It's the war of words. If you say you shouldn't be doing this to children, they say you are homophobic or you are transphobic. You see what I'm saying? If you say, you know what I'm saying? So there's a war of words.
War of words,
Of
right.
course,
Try to use the words that really accurately describe what's one of the phrases that I got, as I said before, from the brother Baruti is
Wow, that's something.
confusion,
Yeah.
gender, and they promote gender confusion. And the way you know that they think there's something wrong with it is that they always portray it as black.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
See, they
and
give
like you-
themselves away. When they think something is good, they portray it as white.
Right.
When they think see, so the criminal justice system, you always see a black woman judged. You notice that? They always come with in these movies, a black woman judge. That's because
Yeah, they have a method to their
Oh, my
madness.
goodness.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's always a
yes,
method to their madness.
in a system of white supremacy, take it and flip it and reverse it, and that's how you figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
If you want the system that is responsible for the injustice, that would be the justice system.
Yeah.
If you system that education, that would be the education system.
Wow.
If you want to know the name for the system designed to destroy you with no possibility of repair, that'd be what? The correction system,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So that's how that goes.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important for us to really take a renewed look on the words that come up around us. And
the villages there.
yeah, well, let
That's
me
not
just get
feeling
my
guilty.
villagers right here. Lloyd Shivers, good afternoon. I wonder where you guys were. Sheila Bird, good. Rashida Johnson, I'm so glad to see you all. Juanita McClure, Robert Cabbage Stock, Walter Shivers, all of them in California. Reverend Clyde Dunn, and I'm going to be talking with you, my brother. Hope all is well. Dina Robinson, good to see you, my sister. All you all, just keep tuning in on us. I tell you, that's the only way we can keep things moving. Going to be changing this world around 2025.
Yeah, I tell you, we need more time. We only have a few
Oh, and
minutes
I
left.
want to say to my villagers, I had suggested that you, I tell you this story about right after the election, I just turned everything off, and I had just decided not to do anything. I wasn't going to do my podcast again. And my grand called me, and he said that he knows what my opinion was about the election. So he called me and said, "How you doing?" I said, "Not too good. I don't think I'm going to do my podcast again." Oh, he got frightened.
No,
He thought I'd get
you
ready
gotta
to
do it. You gotta do it.
Before 10 minutes, I had about 20 people calling me thinking I guess I had to.
Didn't know you got to continue.
I said, no. But what happened, I was listening to one of the programs, the Black Voices.
Yeah.
And the brother who I was listening to at the time, I think it was Dr. Greg
Great
Carr.
Yes.
I'll have him on my show too, Dr. McIntosh, soon. But yeah, he just renewed my strength. I listen to him, so I'm advising my people. You listen to Black Voices. You listen to Dr. McIntosh on WBAI. You listen to a series 106. Now, I say that, but I had not listened to that program intensely for a while.
Yeah.
And when I did, I hear a lot of profanity. So I'm going to I ask you and advise you to listen, but I'm kind of back it up a minute and say, and I know some people may say that's old-fashioned, but I'm old-fashioned. I do
that's
know
disrespectful.
in any,
that's all. That's
right, because in any generation, I tell my youngsters today that when they use that word, I say, no, in any generation, there is the morality.
Yeah.
There's somewhere. You may decide you want to go one way or the other. But
Let's talk, Sister Ruby, let's talk about profanity in a future show.
Yes,
It's not.
Yeah, we need to do that because again that's important.
Yeah, so I just want to advise my people. I want you to listen to it, but I'm not encouraging that.
Yeah.
But I do want you to listen to Black Voices. They will, help you run through this what we're going through now.
Independent Black voices, though.
Yeah.
The words
corporate.
called profane are the ones of the conquered people. So when the Romans, they had the Vulgar and the Latin. So that if you say it in Latin, then it's supposed to be a good word. If you say it in one of these conquered languages, then it's profanity.
Okay.
Population, that's a good, healthy word. If you say peck, which the Anglo-Saxons said, well, then that was the curse word.
Okay.
If you say condemn, which is what the Romans said, but if you say it the way that the conquered people said it, which was you shorten it, damn, then that's okay. Now, I don't promote using that language because there is a thing in a culture, in which something is considered either high or low. But at the same time, don't be crazy about it because at the end of the day, these are all words from our conquerors.
That's the thing. That's what we got to understand,
Well, I think the young people are using those Anglo-Saxon words as a form of rebellion. Now, I don't think it's I don't like it. I don't think it's a good thing to do, but at the same time, don't get crazy with it where you reject people just because they use those Anglo-Saxon words. Because really, at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference whether it's a Roman or Anglo-Saxon.
Oh, that's good teaching. See, that's why we should always have folks like you to correct whatever thoughts that we might have contrary to what it should be. Because I tell you, that effing and stuff like that.
Sister Ruby, I can't. I share with you what I know, and you share with me what you know, and that's the way we come to a conclusion.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah.
On that other stuff, Sister Ruby, I just want to give you a piece of advice. Don't be ashamed of your ideas that are common sense. If something seems crazy to you, if it seems crazy to you to take a 6-year-old and cut their genitals, okay, then go with your gut on that. Go with your gut on that. Because don't argue with the people, or whatever you do not get into the argument, because they done changed. They got so many different words they can use. What Brother Rudy said is, he said, never argue with a crazy person.
That's true.
You argue with a crazy person, nobody else will know which one is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, we thank you for that, but we got to get out of here. But again, Dr. McIntyre, thank you for coming in and sharing this with us.
If you will.
Got to have you back. Yeah.
Yes. Always enjoy your
Okay,
conversation and learn something every time you come.
Say goodbye to our villagers.
Yes, we will. We're going to see you all next week again. I want you all to be aware that we're bringing some new shows on the beginning of every Monday. We're going to have a show called African Talk.
Yes.
Something about Africa. I know my cousin Daryl, if he's listening, he communicates with the continents. They do that. He's been doing it for years. And my son out in California, he always sends me some political information about Africa and positive, what they're doing.
Yeah,
so we want to try to share that with you. It's going to be called African First. Yeah. So you all continue
looking forward to all of that,
Okay, and of course, as I said before, my sister Lula will be bringing in the children next week. It's going to be the way we're going to try to re-educate our young people, since they're taking everything out of the school, out of the library. We're going to do it from home, and then we're going to have the show called William A. Cap. That will benefit us, y'all, and everyone else who is interested in learning about our history. So bye-bye, and God bless.
God bless. Thank you, Dr. McIntyre.
Thank you all for having me.